Fellas, AC here. Welcome to another review. This time it's a legendary fragrance called Knize 10. This is from Austria. It was released in 1924. This is not a vintage bottle, but this fragrance is known as a legendary leather fragrance. This is a precursor to some of the most amazing, well-known, well-respected leather fragrances. Let's start. Knize 10. I've already got 2 sprays on the top of my hand, which I sprayed about an hour ago, just to prepare for this review, because this is an important review. This is a very important fragrance, and it's one of the most well-respected fragrances. Reason being, the leather note used here is known as a note that is a framework for some of the greatest fragrances, leather fragrances we have seen in modern times. But I'll come to that note in a minute. Let's start with when this was created. 1924, almost 100 years ago, and this is still going strong. This was the first niche, or true niche, because it was created by a house that doesn't deal with perfumery. Knize, Joseph Knize, was a tailor appointed, was on a royal appointment to the court in Austria, and he specialized in tailoring clothing for men, I believe. And his friend, good friend, was François Coty. François Coty was the godfather of perfumery in the 1920s. He created Coty Chypre. This is a Chypre as well, and he was collaborating with Vincent Roubert, who was also working for François Coty, and they teamed up to create a fragrance for Joseph Knize. And Joseph Knize basically released many more fragrances, few which are quite popular, but this house doesn't create many fragrances. That's why I call it the first true niche, if you like. So let's start. Excuse me. When you first spray the fragrance, it automatically takes you back to the 1920s. Reason being, in the 20s, men wouldn't wear fragrances because it was considered too dandy. So fragrances had to be slightly reserved, slightly more masculine, and shouldn't have sort of portrayed an image of trying too much, right? And that's why fragrances were made by apothecaries, and they had this medicinal herbal smell to them. That's what the style of those days were. When you first spray this, it smells of tincture, light tincture, and it's very bitter, mossy green, and there's a prominent leather note and very herbal. It is quite herbal. And what you would smell then would shock you. Some people say there's a hidden banana note as well. I don't get it very often, but I do get it sometimes. So that's the opening. But before I go more into the fragrance has a note. That note is the most important thing in this fragrance because you smell it everywhere. And it's called isobutylquinoline. Isobutylquinoline is a very real leather smell. And it's a very powerful note, and it has many facets. You have to use it with different materials to bring out the facet that you want it to showcase. The facet here, first, is a mossy green leather, which is slightly bitter and quite full, because the fragrance it smells very natural, honestly. This fragrance is stunning. It's very, very natural. It's inspired by the sport of golf, and you can immediately relate to the Knize 10's attempt at leather with the sport of golf. It's got that high octane sort of a activity like, it's something which is associated with motion. That's the kind of fragrance this is. It's herbal, it's tincture like to start with, and the leather note here, as I said, is a reference point. So let me refer to you the fragrances that this fragrance is a grandfather of, if you like. The first one is Cuir Mauresque. Cuir Mauresque by Serge Lutens is considered one of the finest animalic leather fragrances. So Cuir Mauresque borrows from the framework of Knize 10. The other one is Cuir de Russie, the mossy, birchy leather that has been used here, has been used again in Cuir de Russie. Cuir de Russie as you know, is very, very popular. Not as good as nowadays, but the vintage version of Cuir de Russie is just amazing because of its birchy leather, which is borrowed from here. Then again, and I think Cuir de Russie came out in the same period. This came out in 1924. Cuir de Russie probably came out in the same time or a little later. The other fragrance, which is one of my absolute favorites, uses a petrol leather. And no, it's not Fahrenheit. It is Bel Ami. Bel Ami by Hermes. That uses that petrol leather, which is my favorite part in the scent, which comes in later. So the opening, as I said, is tincture-like. It's bitter. And it's got lots of herbal quality because of rosemary. Rosemary is very strong. And they have also used orange, neroli, and lemon. It's subdued by the bitter leather mossy note that I mentioned. But it's there. I'm in the middle stages now. The middle stage of the fragrance brings out powdery quality. And that's where the powdery leather is very prominent. And along with the powdery qualities, there's a woody character to the scent. Sandalwood. And obviously this is not using real sandalwood. But you get that beautiful, and there's a rose tincture used as well. Slightly powdery, talcum powder, rose, sandalwood. And there's some other notes like geranium and carnation. And those two notes keep the fragrance masculine. Because sandalwood rose can turn the fragrance, and powderiness can turn the fragrance feminine. It's not. And it develops slowly. This is the stage where I start to really like the fragrance. This is a stage where this fragrance really smells aristocratic. You know, from something which belongs in the 1920s to something which is timeless, right? And you know, the image in my head that I keeps playing in my head is something like an estate car, big estate, and a nice vintage car. Reason being, the castor oil smell that I forgot to mention that you smell in the opening with the powdery leather, it just reminds me as if you're driving an old vintage petrol car, your clothes start to smell of petrol and you're wearing a leather overall. Something like that, very aristocratic. I really enjoy this. And I think everybody who romanticizes about Knize 10 starts to really like the middle stage. Because that's the middle stage is when the fragrance is, yeah, proper niche, you know, very creative. Now, the late dry down is even better. That's when the petrol leather comes out, yeah? And there is this hidden note of tobacco. There's no tobacco mentioned, but you get tobacco as if you're smoking and you've driven your car. So there's this smell of tobacco, pouch tobacco, slightly damp. It's also warm because vanilla and amber has been used along with musk. I'm sure they've used nitro musk. Not sure if this one uses nitro musk. But you get this beautiful petrol leather, Bel Ami, along with tobacco note and along with musk and amber. Yeah, and there is also a little animalic facet to it. And that's when this leather becomes my favorite. It's like a very soft calf leather. Really, really nice. The late dry down. I love it. It's not there yet. It takes very slow. It evolves very, very slowly. And it's got 20 odd notes. It's stunning. So pros and cons. Number one pro. This is a legendary fragrance, right? So for it to carry the flag of being a legendary leather for 97 years, yeah, it's quite phenomenal. It's a timeless piece. It is a fragrance that is going to give you the feeling of evolution. This is where it all started. All the fragrances I mentioned borrow from this. So if you're into that kind of, if you're a collector, you like this. Because it has those qualities which will attract you to itself. Number one. Number two, complex. As I explained, the fragrance is phenomenally complex. This is why you buy niche, right? And it'll give you the pleasure of enjoying a complex fragrance which brings certain facets out in certain weather. That's number two. Number three, the fragrance has a very aristocratic quality to it. I feel it that way. It is something that is exclusive. It smells exclusive, aloof, and also slightly sort of, I don't like the word, but slightly snobby, right? Snobby from success, real success. Yeah? It has that feel to. if you like such fragrances, or if you have that kind of personality or taste, Knize 10 will really attract you. Now the downsides. Number one, being a vintage, you expect it to have tremendous performance. It doesn't. It's a very mellow kind of a scent. And I can see why it was mellow. Remember, in 1920s, men didn't want to smell of perfume. It was not masculine. It was dandy. It was considered dandy. So, it has a mellow performance, both in terms of projection. Longevity is very good, and sillage. Sillage is medium, low to medium. Projection, low to medium. Longevity, stunning, right? But it's not a beast mode leather fragrance like Tuscan leather or any other fragrance that you consider to have beastly performance when it comes to leather. So that's number one. Number two, hard to get hold of. Here in the UK, you can easily get hold of it on eBay, but like I said, niche, it's a true niche. It's very difficult to get hold of in all the countries around the world. So if you're having difficulty, please don't despair. I hope someday you'll find one, because it's worth owning if you're a serious connoisseur. Now, seasons. Spring. Spring is the best time to wear a fragrance which is like this. It's got a perfect construct of a mossy green chypre with leather as the main player. So if you like chypres and if you like that sort of a structure as I mentioned, you should go for Knize 10. Spring is ultimate time to wear this. It's ultimate. This is too strong for summer because of the notes and the concentration of notes. It might give you a headache. So spring. Compliment factor. I don't think you'll get any compliments. This is not the kind of fragrance which is worn to get you a compliment. So forget compliments. If you do get one, take it. But I don't think you'll get any compliments. This is not, the purpose isn't that. Age groups, 35 plus. This is a major fragrance. This is a mature scent. If you have that personality and you're 20-year-old, please, by all means. But this is a very aloof kind of a fragrance, right? So 35 plus, slightly serious. Occasions, anytime. If you're a rich guy and you work for yourself, if you work in a lush office, anytime. But I wouldn't wear this to an interview. I wouldn't wear this to a date because people might misunderstand me if they smell me. And I'd wear this daytime, evening time to a circle that knows me, right? So if a circle is familiar, I'll wear this. Value for money. Okay, so this is a niche, a proper niche. And this is 30 ml bottle. You can get a 30 ml bottle anywhere between 45 and 55 pounds on eBay if you look. If you get it for less, consider yourself very lucky. 50 ml comes for about 85 pounds and 125. So there are three sizes. Go for 30 ml. It'll last you a lifetime. It's a very strong fragrance. You'll have to look for occasions when to wear this. So I think this is a top-notch scent. Marks out of 10. I will be practical. If I was evaluating it from the mindset of a romantic, I would have given it a 10 out of 10. But I have to be practical. So marks out of 10, 8. I think 8 is a good number for this. This is a classy, complex, interesting leather scent, which is a framework for many famous fragrances. But low availability is going to give it, it's going to wear it down a bit from 10. So I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think that's fair. Hope you enjoy the review. Take care. Bye-bye.